Welcome to the Yallahs Baptist Church YouTube page. The Family Life Ministry of the Yallahs Baptist Church welcomes you to a series of interviews. We use this opportunity, International Women's Day, which is held annually on March 8th, to celebrate our pastor, Reverend Walker. International Women's Day is a global occasion when we honor the achievements of women, recognize their contributions to society, and advocate for gender equality. Reverend Walker joined the Yallahs Circuit of Baptist Churches in 2009. She not only was able to face the challenges that goes with being the pastor of a circuit, but she was able to strive and surpass expectations. This is a woman who puts God first. And as we speak to her today, we want to get just a feel of what it has been like leading the flock. How has she been able to ensure that there is gender equality? Is that a problem in the Yallahs Circuit? And what is her general advice to us as women on this International Women's Day? So let me welcome at this time the pastor of my circuit, the pastor of the Yallahs Circuit of Baptist Churches, Reverend Brenda Walker. Good to have you with us, Reverend Walker. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. I am doing great, and it is good to be here in this space with you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me just ask you first. Let's just go into the interview right away. As the pastor of the Yallahs Circuit of Baptist Churches, could you describe the leadership structure within your circuit? Are both genders equally represented? And how do you believe women can contribute to leadership roles within the church?
Okay, thank you so much. Leadership within the Yellow Circuit of Baptist churches is similar to what exists in other churches within the Jamaica Baptist Union. Most circuits have at least two to four churches and one pastor. And in our case here in the Yellow Circuit, we have four churches in this circuit, and I'm the pastor. But we have, like ourselves and other JBU churches, leaders within the different churches. So we have our deacons, and our deacons work closely with the pastor in administering the church's affairs. Alongside the deacon and the pastor, there are ministry leaders. So there are committees, ministries, auxiliary groups. So all of these leaders, alongside the deacon and the pastor, work together. So we are the officers' corps, and then so each church has an officers' corps. And then the circuit also has an officer's corps as well. So both from the circuit level and the churches level, we work together to accomplish our shared mission and vision. As it relates to the balance between male and female, what you find in most churches is that there are more women than there are men. Now, within our circuit, and I know many other churches do it, leaders in the church are not selected or elected based on their gender, but on their availability and their ability. First of all, their availability, right, to God, and then to the work of God. So persons are selected in the circuit, not so much based on whether they are male or female, but based on their availability and their ability.
Okay, well, that's the first thing, availability and willingness to work in the church.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for that. Could you share some examples of some strong female leaders in the biblical context and their influence?
Sure. There are so many women, influential women in the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament. I can, make mention of a few. Um, I like them, the women in the Bible, and the roles they play. So there is Deborah, and I call her Deborah the judge. And she was a great leader. Not only was she a judge, but a prophet, and she served for over 40 years. And I want to point that out, that in a male dominated society, here was a woman who was a military leader and she served for such a long time. So she stands out for me as one of those prominent, influential women in the Bible. There is Miriam, I call her Miriam, the worship leader, and we're familiar with Miriam. And Miriam was the first person when the Israelites, when they crossed the Red Sea, she was the first person to pick up her instrument and to lead in worship. So I consider her also very influential. And beyond her being a worship leader, yes, she has flaws just like all of us, but she was also mentioned as one of those nation leaders. So she was named alongside Moses and Aaron as leaders. So very, very influential. Now, this other woman in the Bible, Old Testament again, still there. I absolutely love her. We don't hear much about her, but certainly one of my favorite characters, women characters in the Bible. She's Queen Vashti. No,
Yes.
Queen Vashti is very, as I said, my favorite, one of my favorites. She was dethroned because she refused to make herself a public spectacle. That's how I understand it, and that's how I choose to look at Queen Vashti. I call her Queen Vashti, the activist, because what she was asked to do, even though everything that was set up in the time said that she was supposed to do what the king said, this woman stood up. She refused to be belittled, regardless of who was asking her to do it and regardless of the consequences. So, although she lost her crown, she kept her dignity. And for me, this was courage, which is why she stands out for me as an influential woman in the Bible. That's Queen Vashti. Of course, Queen Vashti losing her position made way for the person that a lot of persons know about, Queen Esther. And Queen Esther, again, we see her standing up, becoming a fearless person when she had to take a stand to save the lives of the Jewish people. But you know what's interesting for me as I look at these women, influential women in the Bible? I believe, and this is personal now, that Queen Esther was able to stand up because before her, in my mind, I'm calling Vashti an activist because Vashti stood up and, regardless of the consequences, she did what she thought was right. And here we have coming right behind her, fearless Esther, standing up for the Jewish people. There are quite a number of others. There is Hulda. You don't hear a lot about her, but she was I call her the reformer. When the kingdom, mm, when it was revived, right, the revival in the kingdom of Israel, when King Josiah found the lost book of the laws and he didn't understand and he wanted some prominent prophets to come and to help him understand. You best believe that in a time where there were persons like Jeremiah and Zephaniah, it was Huldah, the prophetess, who led the whole process in terms of restoring the people, bringing them back to a place where they acknowledge God and so on. So for me, a very prominent woman, and these are just some of them.
We have you're able to give us a lot of examples and introduce us to some a woman in the Bible that many persons don't speak about. Let me ask you a follow-up question for our present time. What qualities do you think make strong leaders? And I'm not just speaking now about female leaders.
All right. Leaders, regardless of their gender, should, in my mind, carry certain qualities or display certain qualities.
Yes.
If a leader is a strong leader, of course, a leader must be able to inspire and motivate. A leader should be sincere, be humble, should operate with integrity, good morals, good ethical values. These are non negotiable when they talk about being a leader. Should be caring, compassionate, be teachable, should lead by example, and especially when we're talking about spiritual leaders now, must be called by God, be genuine, in terms of their heart toward God and people. A good leader is committed, and these are gender neutral. To be a committed person, especially again in terms of a spiritual leader, must be empowered by the Holy Spirit,
Mhm.
reflect. And this for me is very, very important in terms of reflecting the fruit of the Spirit, have a positive attitude, and pursue holiness. These are gender, it passes through whether male or female, these are non negotiable good qualities of a leader.
Thank you so much. Thank you. As we continue, because we're seeing examples in the Bible, you've told us of some qualities that every leader should have. But I'm sure as a female pastor, you have seen some, resistance. There's because many persons see men as the persons who should be leading, especially in the church. So my question to you is, how do you navigate the resistance or the traditional views towards women in leadership, and especially women in leadership in the church?
Wow, good question here, Claudia. There has and I believe will always be resistance toward women in leadership, and unfortunately, within the church, there are resistance, pockets of resistance everywhere. Um, One of the things that I would point out here, and this for me is what is maybe the most disturbing part of it. A lot of the resistance that comes toward women, especially in leadership, and I've seen that for myself, does not necessarily come from the men, and that's unfortunate. That there are a lot of women who are opposed to women in leadership, and that is a difficult thing. But nevertheless, it exists.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not swayed by this stance, and the reason I stand firm, regardless of the resistance, whether it comes from male or female, one and only thing for me that stands up above everything else is my call.
Praise God.
I, I am convicted that God called me to the office in which I am now serving. And because I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the call comes from God, then even where there are pockets of resistance and persons who may not want to be led by a female pastor, it doesn't bother me. I don't take it personal because the call came from God. And I've said it before. I try not to say it when somebody comes in an aggressive way. That if you have a problem with me as a leader, you need to take it up with the one who called me. Uh,
Yes.
I didn't call myself, and so I don't take the opposition. I don't take those challenges personally. I don't. No, if God thinks that I possess what He is looking for, then who am I to say otherwise? And God is wiser than I am. No, my challenge is if there is a person who is wiser than God and challenge God's authority or God's decision, then that is something that I have no control over. They can go and contend with God, but I won't contend with anybody. And that makes me content in doing what God has called me to do.
Very good. I'm listening. Your answer, it just jumped out. If God says that this is for you, then whomever wants to question that, it's not for you to answer because you didn't call yourself. You did not call yourself. Wonderful. As we go into that, there are many Christian, a lot of women who are Christians and they're single.
Mm.
Do you have any advice for women who are Christians and single in your circuit or even anywhere, anybody who may be listening to this video at this time?
Whoa, that's an interesting one. So, singleness. All right. I start off by saying singleness is not a crime at all. It's not confined to Christians. So it is there. Good. Christians, however, are held. to God, should be held to God's standards of holiness. So we live in a time where societal, well, not just now, but societal pressures have always been there for women to fulfill their duties. And of course, we don't have to go into that in terms of what is considered a woman's role, a woman's duty. There are
Mhm.
so many of them. But I believe that as a person, as a woman, that we should be more concerned about being a happy person, more than we are being so sad that we are not wives, or however you want to put that. But I would encourage women to strive to live a happy life rather than to be sad waiting to be a wife. Be happy, get to know yourself, be happy living with you, be the best woman that you can be. Your happiness should come from knowing who you are, and as a Christian, whose you are. So you belong to God. And I believe that if you're a happy person, that if you do get married, then you will definitely be a happy wife, right? If you
Mhm.
remain single, be the best person you can be. Your purpose in life is not to please a person, but to bring honor and glory to God. So my encouragement: honor God, honor God, and you will fulfill God's purpose for you. And I say this: you are no less a woman if you are single. You
Mhm.
belong to God, and you are never alone because He's always with you. You are able, if you choose to be a single person, because some persons choose singleness. Not everybody
Yes.
wants to get married. Some persons choose singleness. If you have chosen singleness, Second Peter 1:3, I just give you that. His
Mhm.
divine power has given you everything that you need to live a godly life through our knowledge of Him who has called us by His own glory and His goodness. So remember, you are not less of a woman because you are single. And by the way, you belong to God, therefore you are never alone. If you are married, just be the best woman that you can be and the best wife that you can be, knowing just the same thing, that you belong to God.
We all belong to God, whether we're
Yes, we
single
do.
or married. Yes. Thank God for that. So, as we go into women leadership, single women or married women in the church, what has the Yallahs Baptist Church, or I should say the circuit, Yallahs Circuit of Baptist Churches, what have they done to foster a sense of empowerment for women in all aspects of their faith journey?
Wow, wow. I'm going to start off. It's not a disclaimer, Claudia. It's not a disclaimer, but I'm going to start off by saying I'm not sure that we have done as much as we can do or could have done to help empower women in all aspects of their faith journey. But we have done some things, and I think we can be and should be a little bit more deliberate in our efforts within the circuit. And again, this is similar to most Baptist churches. We do have our women's group, women's federation, and the women's federation really um, gives more specific space, or it is a space to address the needs of women. Recently, and I will make note of this because I know it's a beautiful initiative. Um, Recently, we have started something in one of our congregations, and we're hoping that it can, move over into the other congregation. It is not a replacement to the women's group that is there. Um, is what we call the women of worth. It's a movement within among the women. It is aimed, as I said, not to replace the women's group that is there, but will help us to be more deliberate in attending to women. It helps to affirm the worth of every woman, regardless of their age, their
Yes.
status, or even their station in life. Doesn't require anything like an enrollment or anything. It's just a space where we acknowledge the worth of women and we address in a direct way issues relating to women. What we have done so far is we have what we consider to be conversations addressing social, spiritual, and emotional concerns relating to women. And I will hasten to say, though, and I am going to balance this as pastor. We do have the male arm of this movement, right? And I believe that we were never meant to compete against each other, but for the purposes of celebrating women, it is wow, we are wonderfully made. And so this wow movement is affirming the worth of every woman.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. So we are actually going and not just looking on older women, but younger women and trying to address different issues that they have. And we're doing
Absolutely.
that not only for the women, but also for the men. Okay. I thank you for that. We are coming on to the end of the interview for persons who have been enjoying. Remember, this is the Yalla Circuit of Baptist Churches. So you can visit our churches on Sunday. Most of our services start at 9, but in Grand Spend, Yallahs Valley, and White Horses, I think they start at 10.
10
All right,
o'clock.
good. Now, what advice do you offer to young girls and women aspiring to take on leadership roles within the church?
Wow, wow. I encourage persons to offer themselves to the Lord, to offer themselves to serve God. If God calls you, just bear this in mind. He's never ever going to ask you to do something that He has not already prepared you for. He equips you for what He is calling you to do. Whatever it is, whether it is serving in a ministry, serving in an auxiliary, becoming a pastor, serving as a deacon, serving in any area, anything God has called you to, He does equip you. So here it is. I shared two passages with you. If you, are aspiring, wanting to lead within the church, remember Colossians 3:17. Whatever you do, in word or deed, do it in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, giving thanks to God. All right, remember that. And First Peter 4:11. If anyone speaks, he should speak as one conveying the words of God. If anyone serves, he should serve with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory, all glory, power forever and ever. So I say to you, if you are led to serve, especially in these times where not many persons want to serve, many people are going after the things of this world. If you feel led to serve, if you feel led to become a pastor, don't hesitate. If you think you are unable, or if the arguments you have been hearing about women shouldn't do this or women shouldn't do that, don't let that stop you. If God calls you, He will equip you for what He has called you for. So go ahead and remember, honor God in all things.
Oh, yes. So I should follow up that question with what is the Baptist Union doing to ensure that there are opportunities for leadership for women? I know that we have
Whoa.
a number of female pastors now, but
Mhm.
what is the union actually doing?
Well, I think, Claudia, we're on the right path. Since 1989, the Jamaica Baptist Union, where they accepted the motion to allow women to be trained for full-time pastoral ministry. That has opened up for me a door, and I know that there are many women before who felt the call of God. I myself, before I knew that there was such a challenge with women serving in ministry. When I was wrestling with my call, I didn't even know that such a thing existed. So the rest was between God and I. So I am sure that there were many women before who would have felt God calling them to serve in this way. I'm sure God would have allowed them to serve in so many different ways. But since 1989, um, the Jamaica Baptist Union has opened the way for women to be trained serve as full-time pastors. Since then, and a lot of women, well, a number of women have been trained and are actively serving in circuits across the Jamaica Baptist Union. And this is interesting, Claudia. In 2018, after so many years of our union, and we are celebrating 175 years of our coming together as a union.
Mhm.
And it was in 2018 that we saw our first female warden. And in 2023, 2021, we had our acting general secretary who was a female. But in 2023, after all these years, we had our first female general secretary. So I say we are on the right path. We have not overcome all the challenges. However, we are going in the right direction. I believe that at the leadership level, the union is going there, but we still have further to go. I also believe that the churches within the Jamaica Baptist Union have a bit more way to go than the leadership, because there are still many churches that are majority women, especially serving as deacons and leaders within the churches. And they refuse to call a female pastor, even though the women who are now serving as pastor within the Jamaica Baptist Union have been serving and functioning exceptionally well. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a female pastor serving. The women have been serving exceptionally well. So the union is going in the right direction, and we have been going there for a period of time. And I'm hoping that as we continue to, sensitize persons and to have discussions like these, that we see more of our churches opening themselves to not just receive female pastors, but to send pastors out as well, because our pastors come from our congregation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. That's a lot to process. And thank you for the information as to when it started and how we have been moving forward. Okay. So let me ask you, as a pastor, you have been in this circuit since 2009. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self on leadership and on being a pastor?
Wow. Hmm. Hmm. What advice would I give to my 18-year-old self? Trust God and trust the process. If I were to give advice to my younger self, just to trust God. Um, if my 18-year-old self could see me today, my 18-year-old self would have been way less depressed, way less sad and stressed.
Mhm.
My 18-year-old maybe to-do list would have been probably different. Yes. But I'm happy though, Claudia, really happy that my 18-year-old self didn't encounter myself today. Reason for that is I believe that the process has really helped. God has used all of what my 18-year-old self didn't know and understand to help to build me. So I think the process produced what God intended, a leader whose faith has grown and whose confidence in God stands firm in spite of where I have been and what I have been through. So yes, my word to my younger self would be just trust God and trust the process. He knows what he's doing.
All right. All right. So let me ask you my final question for today. And I really want to thank you for taking up the opportunity to be a part of our series, the first of our Family Life Ministries interviews. Thank you so much. But I would love for you to leave us. And as our pastor, what message of empowerment would you like to convey to the women within your congregation on this International Women's Day?
Wow. What would I say? Women of worth. Your gender is not a disadvantage. You are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And because you are made in his image, you can do anything because he is your strength. So I say to you, women, celebrate who you are. You are strong, you're bold, you're beautiful, you are an overcomer. You are God's precious creation. You are woman by God's design. Celebrate that. That's what I would say. Just celebrate who you are, your beauty. Just celebrate being woman.
Thank you so much, Reverend Walker. We'll have to interview another time on another topic because you have been a wealth of information. But thank you. And let me just say, on behalf of the Yallahs Baptist Church and especially the Family Life Ministry, we thank you for your service to us over the years. We thank you for your leadership. And we continuously pray that God will continue to bless you and guide you as you lead us throughout this year 2024 and beyond. Thank you, Reverend Walker.
Thank you so much for having me, Claudia. It is a pleasure. Thank you.